molested as a child. I was a very shy, fragile girl. The only ones I spoke to about it was with my sisters.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Little Black Book. You already know what time it is, baby. If you're new to the channel, make sure you like, share, subscribe, click on that bell button for the notifications of the uploads. And for those of you returnees, Mineral Gang, baby, Mineral Gang. Gege, you can't handle the heat in the kitchen. You know what to do? Get out, baby. Hey, we're going to talk to you guys about Love Goals, episode 5 actually. I think we're on 5 or 4, can't remember. But this particular episode, I really want to. It's a tough one for me because this is something I've been studying about with a friend for the past few years, and you know, the talking about sexual assault, rape, you know, these particular issues within our community is such a tough thing to do, and a lot of us as men are so oblivious to these challenges until it meets us at our door. And a lot of men are blind because they're uneducated, unintelligent in this area, and lack knowledge. And so the Bible says, a lack of knowledge, my people what? Perish. And what we see is a lack of knowledge, especially from a male understanding when it comes to this particular topic. We make ignorant statements. And so when we're talking about this particular episode today, I really want to be, you know, sensitive to the topic. And really deal with it in an appropriate manner. I have like kind of put a little trigger warning because obviously I know people hearing other people's particular stories may trigger them going forward. So you know, we were introduced to the group therapy session about childhood traumas. Now this will scare you, and do you know what? I think Dwayne, Theresa's partner, really summarizes how a lot of us feel. Especially as men and women, when we've not heard these stories go on. Now, I think women are probably less so, but us men, because we don't often hear these stories, we don't sit in the circles.
You know, she made me lick hers, and she used to lick on me, and I was 8 years old. I was a little.
But when we hear these stories about, sexual assault of young children, yeah, rape of young children by adults. Yeah, when we finally hear it, we are so shocked, we're not sure what to do. And this was Dwayne through the whole episode. If you look at his face, you can see that man's not sure what is going on. When he hears Mimi, and he hears Spindelelli, and he hears even Theresa speak about it, it shocks him, yeah? And it should shock him, because when they tell you the majority of the time who's doing it, it's majority, as you know, oftentimes it's men doing this. Then you start to realize men are the freaking problem, and oftentimes we are perpetrators of behavior through our stereotypical, our ignorant comments, our very biased and I would say ill-educated kind of jokes, locker room jokes that we make. And they contribute towards mindsets, yeah? Now, a lot of guys will say, I would never rape a girl, or never sexual. But let me tell you something. If you look at the definition of rape, it will scare you into thinking about actually whether you are one of those people. Because oftentimes we think of rape as just as a physical tussle. You know, I ripped your clothes off and you did it. But listen, rape and sexual assault is to do with consent. Consent. And even when it comes to the responses, waiting for someone to, you know, oh, she didn't say no per se, but she froze, she froze, you know, the 5 F's was that they freeze, flight, some people fight, some people flop, you know what I'm saying? And so there are different responses even in this. And so oftentimes guys are like, well, you know, and we see this especially on social media where it's like, oh, so long as she agreed to it. But did you coerce her into agreeing? Did you have to fully keep on persuading her, keep on pestering her to do this thing? Because that's still rape. Yeah, you coerced her into doing it, bro. She felt like she had no choice, so she did it. She felt like she was in danger, so she had to do it. These can also be classed as rape. And so, and even if you, do you know what I mean? So, do we have to start and the reason why is because we're not educated in this, we start to think some of our behaviors are normal. And to the opposite sex, our behaviors are abusive. You understand? Abusive, bro. You know what I mean? And because we've been in a place such of privilege for so long as men, yeah, that we don't realize that our behaviors and what we say and what we do can come off in a certain manner. Same way that white people are unaware sometimes of their privilege. I'm saying all of this to kind of go into the Love Goals episode to say, look, when we're talking about obviously Mimi and Mimi Spinelli and Theresa and even Sunday as well, you know, we have to really get to grips with that as men to understand their position and what they've gone through. You know, to be in a place where you've had to recover from such a traumatic event, the glossing over of that pain, these are wounds, you know, and these are contributing towards some of the actions of some of these ladies as they're sitting there. And even Coolio himself said it as well. He also, you know, suffered through being touched at, well, having to do sexual things with a woman at the age of 8.
You know, she made me lick hers and she used to dick on me, and I was 8 years old. I was a little...
Do you know what I mean? So you see these things playing out in childhood traumas of people. People have gone through situations, and the more that I talk to people about their experiences, even in life, I start to realize so many people, not just women, men too, which is a bit more quieter, have gone through these scenarios. And I want to say, as a man, I believe it's our duty to start to take precaution in the way that we act, and also to, as well, don't leave certain behaviors unchecked in our boys, in our children who are boys, because these things can creep into certain areas of life. Now, obviously, oftentimes rape and sexual assault often are to do with power, and the person necessarily hasn't chose you because, you know, you're the prettiest thing or whatever. It's because oftentimes it's about power and control, right? And so, yeah, just want to bring that to the forefront. Now, I want to just kind of break down some things that happened within the actual session as well. So Benzino and Althea, I saw them, obviously, they managed to sit in a certain way which wasn't so against each other. Like in the past few episodes, they've been sitting completely wild, right on the opposite ends of each other. They don't even want to see each other. But today they were sitting at the ends, but you know, Benzino was man stretching a little bit. And like last time when he kind of kept his legs together and kept himself to the side of the sofa, but he's a bit more man spreading, allowing himself to be a bit more open body framed. Althea too, you know, she even had her legs cast, you know, she even kicked her leg over the other leg and it was pointing towards Benzino. Her body wasn't so tied to the side. But, you know, it's getting there, but it's not there. Well, it was getting there and now it's not. But anyway, also Theresa and Dwayne were quite interesting because at the very beginning when they sat down, she was literally at the opposite end. Then before you know it, she was moving closer and closer, and before she knew it, she was in the armpit of Dwayne. And I think, you know, what Theresa really wants is just for him just to take care of her, and it's not financial because that's already locked down, bro. It's the emotional care. It's the emotional caregiving. You know, what are your desires? It is the emotional caregiving. It's the want and the need for coverage of what? Security. It's the feeling of feeling secure in the fact that, yes, okay, financial's got me, but has he got my mind? Has he got my soul? Has he got what? Has he got me covered? Because that's what she really wants, to have herself covered, especially when she's gone through what she's gone through, and especially what he's gone through. And as Spirit said, they play off each other in terms of their traumas. But it was interesting to see her close the gap. Mimi and Coolio was also very interesting because, you know, Mimi and Coolio started off quite close. You know, she had her hand in her thigh. You know, and they were very, very, very tight knitted on the conversation. You will see that later on, as I said, when they started talking, they actually separated. And interesting enough as well, Sunday and Brevon were on the opposite sides of chairs. Now, I don't know what's gone on between the last episode and now. I'm not sure what's happened. Because obviously something's happened because they're separate. Because usually they sit arm in arm right next to each other. So something has happened behind the scenes that we haven't seen that's caused this ripple or caused this distancing. And it's really odd because obviously Sunday was saying that when they were talking, later on, Sunday said obviously that when she spoke to Spirit, you know, she said obviously, she said some words like I love you, to Brivani. He was like, "Wow, what do you say? What's wrong with you?" And he was like, "What, you changing?" And he's like, you know what I'm saying? So to hear her say that, then to not sit next to him at the group therapy session was weird, because she said that after, you know, the group therapy session, unless that happened, but she said that happened the night before, so I don't know, something happened. And to go back to Coolio and Mimi as well. With Coolio and Mimi, it was interesting because although she was very close knitted with Coolio, her face expression kind of showed that she wasn't really there. Or her mind was in something else rather than in the moment, and she was thinking about something. So it was interesting to see that these psychological proximities that people were bringing to the table, you know, at first as well. Cool. So today, first one I want to start off with is Coolio and Mimi, and then we'll do a part 2 probably in a part 3 if it requires that. So part 2. Interesting enough was obviously it was group therapy who want to show their child trauma first, and Mimi went first. Now I'm not sure whether it's that, you know, because I know black people, we're quite inhibited. We struggle to express things that make us feel like we're weak. We don't want to. We've been taught how to be strong. We've been taught that if you don't be strong, you die. And so what happens is we tend to cover up a lot of our pains, right? Which Spindelli explains later. Spirit explains to Spindelli later on. I don't know why I'm getting her name wrong. So when Mimi took the forefront and was talking it with some pizzazz, I mean, she just said, "Yeah, I'll go." Yeah.
I will. Okay, Mimi. So I want you to take us through some of your childhood trauma. I have trust issues when.
So yeah, you know, she took the forefront so quickly, and I wasn't sure whether it's because, you know, I'm gonna be honest, white people are they seem to be more vibrant when it comes to these things, and not just necessarily to the topic, but in terms of just being more open. But then I also thought as well, is it because, well, she's further along her journey than the rest of the people? Because when it comes to black people, we are really restricted in these things. Like this may, like our pain may never come out into the deathbed. Like just how hard we keep secrets. So when she took that forefront, I was really thinking, is that because she's further along her journey, or is that because, you know, she's maybe potentially she's white and that they have a different way of doing things? Because, you know, black people be tight like that. But I was really impressed by the fact that she was so confident to take it. It was interesting though, because as she was talking, I could sense where she was along the journey. And before she even said, because there was a part where she said, you know, she felt like she blamed herself, like she blamed herself. And one of the things I wanted to say as well, when it comes to sexual assault and rape and stuff like this, one of the easiest things for women, especially in these scenarios, and men,
it's very hard to admit that you were a part of something like that. It's sometimes a little shameful and embarrassing. But to say I was a part of it almost as though you had a role in it.
Is to say it was my fault. And the reason why they do that is because it is easier to accept fault, because it means there was something you could have changed. But it's scarier to admit that actually I did nothing wrong and there's nothing that I could have done to change the scenario, because this person decided they had the power to do so. That's a scarier world. Because at least in the other world, you could have done something to change it. You know what I mean? You could have done something to change it. But in this scenario, you're saying that there's nothing I could have done. Like, what, am I just in the wrong place at the wrong time? Like, you start to think, what, is God allowing this to happen? Is he punishing me? Like, that's a scarier thing to think of. And so oftentimes, you see these cases, people often blame themselves, because if they do that, then it means that there was some level of control over the situation. But the truth of the matter is, there was never a reason as to why you deserve this, one. Two, there's never a reason why a man or woman should ever be forcing any child, coercing, persuading anything into a sexual act with an adult. What? It's a level of madness, right? It's abusive, it's rape, it's sexual assault, whichever you want to call it, and it's wrong. So when obviously she took the mantle to speak, I was just paying attention to her and some of the signals. So, I mean, her hand was in his inner thigh, but then later on, she kind of like untangled herself a little bit as she was discussing her particular issue. And after she confessed that her grandfather molested her, you know, she then became separate from Coolio. She kind of took her space. And I mean, the reason why, again, and this is for everyone across the board, is that whenever you're expressing something very, very deep, it's a bit like almost sometimes, you know, when you're sleeping in a girl, and I say this loosely because I know the severity of the subject. So sometimes when you're sleeping in a bed with somebody, it's cute to think you're going to sleep in a bed, but then it gets hot. And what I'm saying is that the situation gets hot that you don't want to link onto the person. You're not sure what to do. And I think Kuda in himself wasn't sure how to comfort her. They've both gone through the same type of same type of trauma. But when you see when Kuda is talking, she's able to rub his back. Now that may be because she's a nurturing type. It may be also because she may be further along her journey that she's able to do that. It may be that she felt more confident to be able to do such an act, and Kuda wasn't, right? And there's so many different reasons why I said that, but I noticed that body language and the difference in the way they were comforting each other. And then obviously, like I said, she went on to say that she felt ashamed to be a part of something like this. And this is what I was talking about, the control aspect. Like, you know, Spirit had to even say to her, listen, like, what do you mean be a part of it? You were taken advantage of. And again, just to reiterate, it's because it makes you feel comfortable, and at least that you can say that there was something I could have done. And it's scary when us men, especially in society and social media and stuff like this, say, oh, the girl was begging for it. Excuse me? Do you say a little girl wearing a dress was begging for it? Do you say a little boy, yeah, who's wearing shorts is begging for it? This is how heinous a statement like that sounds like. But because we're so used to our privilege, we don't even realize it. It's like black people saying, you know, white people say nigger. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm not saying that you're a nigger. No, I'm just saying nigger. I just like saying nigger. I'm not saying that you are a nigger. The comment is so insensitive, ill-considerate. You know, it's based on your privilege. And so, you know, that was something that was interesting as well. And so, yeah, I mean, there was a confidence in her, the way she was speaking about her situation that was different from everybody else. There was an openness there. But, you know, I sense that obviously, even though there's a confidence, it's almost as if, you know what, there was still, obviously, like I said, everyone's dealing with their pain, their trauma. So how people come out with theirs, you know, I appreciated her honesty and her openness. And I think it opened up the rest of the group as well to being that honest as well. When Kuda actually has his turn to speak, it's very interesting because he never looks up at Spirit. I think the only people that looked up at Spirit was Dwayne, Q, and even partly as well Spindinelli for a little bit. But the rest of them kind of averted the gaze, didn't want to really look at Spirit. And I think the reason being is because, like, it's very hard to be able to explain this to somebody. You know, tell someone these deep things that you're feeling. And so with Kuda, he actually looked down the whole entire time as he was speaking about his particular experience. And he actually unravels himself from Mimi, and they become separate.
Can you share your childhood trauma with the group?
I had so much childhood.
As he's speaking, and he comes forward again to explain his particular situation. We saw this when he had when him and Mimi had the one-to-one with Spirit when they first came in. When he began to speak about his experience of what he had seen and about his son, he came forward again. All right, so this is him being able to be open and honest. He comes forward, he sits forward.
Bunch of nights to school every day, from 7th to 10th grade. I don't even know how many fights I had. I don't know how many people I hurt.
It's interesting as well, like the reason for the men as well going into gangs, because I think this is a statement that always comes to my mind, is that some people say, you know, during the gang, you know, these people didn't they made bad choices, but when you hear the stories of why people join gangs, you start to realize it ain't so black and white. And to judge someone like that is premature. You know, this guy explained that he had to go through 3 different, not even that, he had to go through 3 different, he was getting bullied, right? He was getting bullied. And because of that fear, you know, he took a gun, he took a knife, and then eventually, obviously, then became bigger, and then getting respect from that, and obviously then joined the gang because he was looked after. He joined the gang because obviously the fear and everything like that. You know, he got involved in obviously knife crime and gun crime, and these things happen because there's a lack of love, and there's a lack of attention, a lack of covering from a parental figure. you know, and that can be difficult, and that can trigger people to do certain things. Not everyone, but it can trigger a lot of people to do certain things. And then he does something which is really interesting, which is that he tries, almost like he's wanting to punish himself, or maybe it's that he acknowledges that he knew he was such a bad person at the time. He says, obviously, you know what, he should have gone to prison as a child. But it's like, you were a child. How did you know what to do? You know, you were a product of your environment and the situation that you've gone through. But he says, as a child, he should have gone to a prison, because obviously what some of the stuff that he did. But it's like, it's hard to think that a child should be going to prison, a child, mind you, going to prison because they're a child. You know, there's a level of innocence there. There's a lack of knowledge in a certain area, and that's saying a lot for the fact that he said that about himself. You know, and it may be a case of how he sees himself too. He feels like he deserves some bad things that are coming his way, or some bad things that should have happened in the past. And then obviously he explains it's not a big deal, and this is what I think a lot of men do this as well. Going through a lot of deep situations, we kind of gloss it over by saying it's not a big deal, I'll get over it, yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm done over it now. And Benzino does this. We see with Benzino. I've spoken about it already, I don't need to talk about it again. I'm done, like, don't worry about it, like, kind of thing, do you get me? And so we see that with also Coolio. Doing that as well. It's just so that you numb the pain. You don't have to reassess it and go over it again. And Benzino mentions that, saying, I think it was Benzino or Coolio says, whenever you talk about it, you've got to rehash the story again and the feelings. Cool.